Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's lovely to see so many kind and familiar faces with us today. So first on our program today is an opening statement held by no one less than Georg Hirzi, who is the Managing Director of the Vienna Business Agency. Please give Georg Hirzi a really warm welcome and an applause and welcome him to stage.
Glück gehabt. Du, ich hab Raum stehen drin.
No?
I think it's the wrong mic. It's my mic.
And the last one. Good morning. The best one. Yeah. So good morning again. Very warm welcome on behalf of the city of Vienna to all of our guests from all over the country, and especially, of course, to our international guests. We do really hope that your stay in Vienna will be as inspiring as it is entertaining and enjoyable. My name is Gerhard Hirzi. I'm the Managing Director of the Vienna Business Agency, an agency of the city of Vienna. Our main purpose is to support businesses located in Vienna, be they national ones or be they international ones. I would like to start with a big thank you to AWS and FFG for being part of Vienna Up again and for integrating the Connect Day into our big festival, Vienna Up. Vienna Up 22 is one of the biggest startup festivals this year, I guess, but definitely it will be the biggest decentralized startup festival in the world. Decentralized, what means that? Decentralized means this festival is not being organized by one organizer, by one organization on one venue, but organized by 30 different partners from the Viennese ecosystem and other international partners too. They organize about 60 different events in 28 locations in 11 districts all over the city of Vienna. So our idea was that our international guests get a feeling of Vienna and Viennese people get a feeling of their guests within these 8 days. The spirit and the idea behind Vienna Up was collaboration and cooperation, and this is the same spirit as the Connect Day is inspired by. Some almost 500 years ago, English philosopher Francis Bacon stated, "Knowledge is power." Undoubtedly, and we know that he was right, and consequently, over the centuries, thousands and thousands of people have accumulated knowledge in order to accumulate power, but they very seldom or almost never share their knowledge. A big mistake, as we know today, at least from the perspective of a society. A big mistake because knowledge is one of the rare resources that become bigger and become more if shared and not less. And we come here together, we're coming together at this Connect Day in order to share, in order to exchange our ideas, in order to become wiser, stronger, bigger, more successful, and even more innovative. And Open Vienna, and I'm sorry if I confuse you with so many terms, Open Vienna is a platform of the Vienna Business Agency. The aim of that platform is to show that Vienna is a perfect place for this kind of exchange and matchmaking. And Vienna has always been a melting pot of new ideas and new projects, and it still is. And in that regard, in that context, it's very helpful that Vienna is an innovative city. So every 10th person you meet on the street of Vienna is a student. We've got some 25 universities and universities of applied sciences here in Vienna. Vienna is a very international city, the only UN headquarters in the European Union. We've got some 40,000 diplomats and experts working here in the city of Vienna. Vienna is a young city, and it's kind of a phenomenon. Every year the city gets younger, unlike us. And last but not least, Vienna has become a city of technology. Within the last 15 years, the number of tech companies who perform own R&D has tripled. So there is much going on in Vienna, but at the same time of all these exciting developments, Vienna has remained being a stable city. And stability sometimes does not sound really dynamic or really sexy, but the last 2 years have shown that this can change quickly, and in uncertain environments, stability and security gains, of course, a higher value. So take, for instance, Corona. In the city of Vienna, every Viennese citizen, every employee in every company of the city was given 4 PCR tests every week for free, and in the peak time of the pandemic, almost 500,000 tests were carried out every day, which is a masterpiece of organization, and this can only happen if there is some sort of stability. But I don't want to talk about Corona. We have talked way too long about viruses. Let's talk about the brighter sides of life. As many of you know, maybe there is something in Vienna we call Gemütlichkeit. Coziness or laid-backness comes quite close. And this Gemütlichkeit makes Vienna not only a good place to work, but also a good place to live. And that's why I would like to invite you to stop by at our festival home base at the Karlsplatz, where you can mix and mingle with other participants from other events. This can be accompanied by one or the other glass of Viennese wine, free of charge. You are our guests there. Just get a ribbon from the organizers up there. And maybe you pay a visit to one of our partnering coffee houses. We have 4 classical Wiener Kaffeehäuser. We call them the first co-working spaces in the world, because there are so many similarities between a co-working space and the classical Viennese coffee house. We've got some 3,500 coffee houses in Vienna, which makes us the world capital of co-working spaces too. You'll be there invited for coffee, of course, and for a cake. But one personal advice: if you order coffee there, do not just order coffee, because we are in Austria, we are not in Germany or the United States. We've got some 20 to 30 different types of coffee, because when you order coffee, the waiter might be disappointed. And there is some special thing about Viennese waiters. When they are disappointed, they quite often show their disappointment, because they think this is kind of the cultural heritage of the city. So please check the menu first before you order your coffee in Viennese coffee houses. So finally, very welcome again. We love to have you here. I wish you a wonderful Connect Day in Open Vienna and a wonderful stay in our beautiful city. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Georg Hirzi, for your opening words. And you've said it already, Vienna has become a city of technology. And to discuss this any further and to see why, and also to see what best practices Vienna has to offer, I would like to welcome our panelists for the next panel discussion this morning, which is on our agenda. And I would like to start by welcoming our Director for Central and Eastern Europe at the Austrian Business Agency, Birgit Reiter-Braunwieser, on stage. Please give a warm welcome. Hello, Birgit. Hi. Bitte? Ich glaube, du darfst dich gleich hier hinsetzen. Next on stage, I would like to invite the Code Cool Country Manager, who is Sigrid Tanuc-Tafener. Hello, Sigrid. Welcome on stage. And last but not least, I would like to welcome the Business Development Manager, Markus Meyerhofer, on stage. Hello, Markus. So, I hope that all your microphones will work now. Perfect.
Shall we try?
Yeah. Well, yeah, please.
Yes, I would like to try it out. Does it work?
I don't think yours is working, is it? Okay.
Hello, mine I guess works.
Okay. Should we try it again?
Maybe we can hand it around, or does it work now?
If it doesn't work during our discussion, then we will just hand it around. That's all right. Yeah, perfect. All right. So I would like to start with a random fact. In fact, so did you know that it takes an average Austrian, around 18 minutes of working time to be able to afford a Big Mac in Vienna? So this is actually a number that is provided by the Vienna City Council, which shows that not only our various coffee varieties and the coffee culture, it makes our lovely Vienna one of the greatest cities to live in, but also its economic factors and many others that we will discuss here today. But not only the beauty and the history make Vienna a very popular place for most people to live in, the city's excellent infrastructure makes it a particularly attractive place and a location for businesses. Every 55 minutes, a new company is set up in Vienna. And with around 23 institutions of higher education, many international companies do benefit from its outstanding offering of expertise and choose to settle in Austria. These are precisely the topics, as I've mentioned, that we will be discussing today, and we have two so-called scale-ups with us on stage, which is one European and one international startup/scale-up. We've also got Birgit Reiter-Braunwieser. I've already mentioned that you're the Director for Central and Eastern Europe at the Austrian Business Agency. The Austrian Business Agency supports companies, so international companies who want to come to Austria and settle in Austria, and you do support them with various helps, so from funding to settling, etc., and rights. Hello, Birgit. So we'd like to welcome you on stage. So, hello, Sigrid. Also, you are the country manager of CodeCool Austria. CodeCool Austria was founded in 2014 and is an international programming school, a tech talent provider, and also a training solution partner. CodeCool was founded in Hungary, is now represented in Romania and also in Poland, and now is, since recently, in Vienna as well. So welcome also on stage. And also joining our discussion today is Wirenect, which is a South Korean startup and was established in 2016. You guys have been working on AR software development for the industrial sector, and now, since mid-2020, you've opened your research hub in Vienna as well. How a South Korean company decides to come to Vienna and settle here as well to make it its Europe-based, so European hub, basically. We will discuss that a little bit later during this discussion, but I'd also like to welcome you on stage, Markus.
Thank you.
So, Birgit, my first question of this morning will be actually directed to you. So when talking about startup hubs, Vienna is gaining significant relevance on an international scale, as we already see here with us. And could you give us an overview of the current state of the Austrian ecosystem regarding these developments?
Hello, everybody. A warm welcome also from my side, and thanks for having me here and being able to comment a little bit on the Austrian and particularly the Viennese startup ecosystem. I think in 2022 we are at a completely different level. The Viennese ecosystem has matured, has seen a very dynamic development. Last year, we had the first Austrian unicorns, Bitpanda, and then also Go Student becoming unicorns, both headquartered here in Vienna. It's not just that, but it's certainly also the fact that there are a number of unicorns also that are following in the tracks of those two 2021 has also seen a record level of investment into Austrian startups. And I think what's most important also, in my opinion, is the fact that all the ingredients of the ecosystem have grown in balance. It's not just that there is more investment, more funding going on, but it's also the fact that there are more startups. The Austrian Startup Monitor that recently was published also saw the increase over the course of the years in the startups. And I also think when it comes to corporate startup collaboration, there is definitely more going on. So all those ingredients have grown in balance, and that's what, in my opinion, is really important for a successful ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely right. And yeah, as you mentioned, Go Student and Bitpanda, Austrian companies, startups that have been funded here and reached a unicorn status here as well. We've got multiple unicorns, as you also mentioned, which we're all really proud of. But what we're also really proud of is that we are actually really popular in Vienna for international companies to come here and to establish their businesses here. And I would like to ask you, as someone working in the Austrian Business Agency, how do you guys support international founders coming to Austria? So how do you support them, and which support basically do you offer? How do you make their lives easier coming here?
What we do at the ABA is, first of all, we are marketing the business location and the tech location abroad. I think it was already mentioned today, Austria, Vienna has become a tech location. And it was very important that I think we now have unicorns and unicorns, because that puts us on the map also with regards to international investors, that they understand, hey, there is good tech talent here and there are good technologies coming out of Austria. What do we do at ABA? ABA is the national agency. We are often the first point of contact for the international corporates, the international startup founders. Depending on what stage they are at with regards to their location decision, we, in the first phase, help them with information data. They need comparative information on what does it cost me to employ people here. They want to have comparative information on what perhaps potential funding is available for R&D in Austria, these sort of things. Once it becomes clear where in Austria they want to locate, we very closely collaborate with the regional agencies. For Vienna, this is the Vienna Business Agency. For the other regions, we have partners with whom we then prepare joint location proposals. We help them establish the company, legal, tax-related questions they may have. And once the companies have been established, then we certainly also offer continuous support with regards to where do I find the relevant talent, who could be cooperation partners. With regards to research, we help them explore funding opportunities with the governmental funding agencies and things like that.
Mm-hmm. That's a really wide portfolio that you're offering there for anyone wanting even to come to Austria. I think that's a really great way of making them feel welcome by easing their steps into this process. What I'm really interested in, Sigrid, is you've mentioned in one of our previous talks that there was an evaluation process where your next step, so from Hungary to Romania to Poland, where the next step, where your next establishment should be. And clearly, Vienna, Austria has won. And I would like to know, why did you choose Vienna? So how come that you've decided for Vienna? It could have been any other European country. So could you elaborate how that process was?
Yes, I think the mic is working now.
Yeah?
True? Super, yes. So let me just first explain what Code Cool is doing, because this really helps also to understand the evaluation process. We are simply saying a coding school, a programming school that comes with a job guarantee. That means that our graduates also get a job offer from us. So this is basically our business model, and there are various selection parameters that we usually apply to find out if a location is suitable for us, if it might succeed. And those are, for example, the number of graduates from tech universities. It's also the student landscape. It's, of course, the company landscape, which is very important, the IT salaries for us, and open job vacancies. So with all those factors, Vienna really prevailed against other cities just like Belgrade, Sofia, but also Munich, which was a great success for Vienna, of course. And what else we did? Of course, we did some homework. We did some market research as well, where we found out exactly who and where our target groups are, and if they understand our offer, if they are really interested, and if it's suitable. These were the basic infos where Vienna, or the basic parameters where Vienna was outstanding. And then there was another fact which is important for us as a programming school and also as a for our job guarantee. And this was that Vienna has a very high living standard and a quality of living. Why is this so important for us? Of course, because we work here. But our students also have to work here, and they should work here because we want to counteract the IT shortage here in Vienna, and we don't want to train them for other locations. So yes, this was it basically why we chose Vienna.
It's really interesting. In fact, it goes almost hand in hand with what you've already said previously. Markus, you at Wirenet are also a young company from South Korea that established a research hub in Vienna. And when we think about Vienna as a business hub, one might not actually think of it being that popular in Asia. So I would like to know from you, what made Wirenet choose Vienna? So was it a clear choice from the beginning, or did it overpower any other candidates?
I mean, I would say it was a fairly clear choice, but just let me also say hello from my side. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share kind of the story here as well, how we experienced as a South Korean company to come to Austria. And to come back to your question, so basically we had the idea to internationalize, right? And if you compare kind of the Korean market to the Austrian or the European market, it is quite big, but it's kind of isolated, right? And therefore, we were looking for a location that kind of could cover a large market area. And so, having said that, I think Austria is kind of uniquely located between kind of as a gateway to the eastern side with a lot of manufacturing sites there, but also like connected to Germany and the high-tech sector there. And so this was kind of one big factor why we thought, okay, Vienna could actually be kind of a bridge between the two. And a second aspect is also the kind of, as you mentioned, Sigrid, and I think everybody has mentioned several times already, the high living standard in Austria, kind of to a relatively low cost. And I think that was also kind of an aspect thinking of attracting international employees here to kind of give them that. And maybe as a third factor, because we work in kind of the tech area, right? But in particular in computer vision, so we need very specialized workforce. We also thought about the TU Wien, for instance, or TU Graz, that we could kind of use the talent there. And surprisingly enough, there's quite a few companies within the computer vision which are substantially and very successful. For instance, Snapchat has a big hub here, Wikitude, and companies like that. So there's also actually quite a good competition pool where we can match ourselves and also ideally try to like get a few people over to work for us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, clearly there is a reason why Vienna is one of the most livable cities in the world. we've got like really common topics, the reasons why you as a European company, you as an international South Korean company have chosen to come to Vienna and establish your businesses here, to expand to Vienna and Austria. But so the common players are basically the high living standards and basically the expertise, the experts that you can find here in your various fields, etc. But what I would like to know from you, Birgit, is what are the lesser known reasons why companies, international and European, they choose to come to Vienna and establish their businesses here? All of these factors that basically make up their minds and help them to decide to choose Vienna, we know, but what are the lesser known ones?
Perhaps one comment on what you already said. I really think, apart from the quality of life, the main reason is the market access that's driving usually location decisions, as well as the availability and the access to talent. Those are the two key main drivers, generally speaking. And I think the quality of life is essential in being able to attract the talent, because we have had companies that have evaluated various locations, and they came to the conclusion, if they're really looking for specialists, if they say, would you prefer to work for us in Budapest or in Vienna, then of course the international talent, the international specialist who can choose would rather opt for Vienna. That, in my opinion, is key. It was already mentioned, at moderate costs, because here again, I think Vienna, in comparison with Munich, in comparison with Paris, in comparison with London, certainly offers a high quality at lower costs, because we have public schools that are of good quality. We don't need to have private insurance when you come here. So these are the factors that I think at the end of the day for the international talent also count. And we have a certain work-life balance here as well. I think that also needs to be noted. The lesser known facts perhaps are what I would call soft facts. And that is certainly things that we Austrians like to take for granted. Safety, security, protection of intellectual property, that's also becoming very important these days. Predictability and stability, we Austrians don't value that too highly, but I think for many companies these days, that's important as well. And one thought perhaps on the availability of talent. What we see more and more is that the companies early on already collaborate with the universities of applied science, with the technical universities, because already during the studies they offer cooperation programs so that the students get to work or get to do their master thesis in the company. And that way they already select the talents of the future that are going to work for the company later on. And here again, I think in Vienna we have 30% international students coming to Vienna and Austria to study. So especially also, I think in the IT sector, many students come from Eastern Europe, Southeastern Europe, but not only. There's also a strong South Korean community, I think, at the university in Vienna. And often they stay. If they get the right job offer, they stay here.
Mm-hmm. And how does the factor how Austrians look at innovation, how they live innovation, and how they appreciate innovation influence this whole ecosystem in Vienna?
The fact that we have an open innovation system where information and particularly knowledge is being shared certainly is totally different from some Eastern European countries, but not only. And we have the system of competence centers of excellence, COMET, which is in fact a public-private partnership where the leading company plus leading research institutes join forces to jointly agree on a 5-year-long focus topic, and they then jointly do research. And why is that important? Because it ensures that the private sector participants turn the outcome of the research into innovative products and services. It's not research for the sake of research, but it's really research results that are being turned into innovative products and services, which are at the bottom, at the core of competitiveness for any economy, any business. It's a global competition, so that's important.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting. That brings me back to you, Sigrid, because I've had a question that actually I think would fit in this moment really well. So it's an all-known fact that Austria is lacking about 24,000 IT specialists. How do you, with Code Cool, you've already briefly explained it in the beginning, but how do you intend to help Vienna advance as a business hub with the services you offer, with the education you offer to your students? So how do you aim to do that?
Yes, of course, that's a good question. Thanks. The one thing that we offer is, of course, our individual training programs for students and our individual job guarantee. And we aim to have around 300 graduates in the next year. So there will be a lot of junior IT programmers that can get a job in the Austrian economy. But this is only one part of our business. The other part that is already alive in the other locations is that we have a huge reskilling program. In fact, we have the capacity to retrain, to reskill about 200 to 500 existing employees in the next 2 to 3 years. What does that mean? For example, in Poland and in Hungary, we cooperate with government institutions. We cooperate also with big multinational companies. And we train in their academies their existing employees in IT hard skills, just like cybersecurity, just like .NET programming, just like front-end development or other really needed skills, manual testing, that are needed on the market. And these are large reskilling programs. And of course, those international companies, just like Motorola, Capgemini, just to name some, they also have subsidies here in Vienna, here in Austria, and they are highly interested to do this here in Vienna as well. So this is, let's say, the second part of our business model and something that I really think is important to counteract IT shortage as well.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to come to you, Marcus, with another question. So basically, when Warneck decided to open their research hub in Vienna, the decision was made. So the next step was to actually put that in reality. At what point did you get in touch with the Austrian Business Agency, and what support did you get from them?
So basically, I started working with Vienna maybe like 8 months after they actually established a branch here in Austria. And there was already some contact with the ABA. Basically, it was one of the very first topics we discussed. And so I also reached out to Mr. Matthias Adelwöhrer, which I can highly recommend. And we basically discussed kind of very basic topics initially, kind of in terms of, I was interested in establishing partnerships with various companies, but also with, let's say, funding agencies, let's say with universities, to kind of like understand the landscape better and get kind of like the first bridge towards these institutions. And throughout like several conversations, I got a lot of information also with regards to like media companies, just basically basic information that you would be interested in. They can provide easily, and I think it was a very good experience, very responsive. So I think I can highly recommend that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would just like to say in this moment that because we've been talking that Vienna might not be as popular in Asia as we might think when we think of Vienna as a business hub. But I've just got through Slido a comment from Franz Rössler, who is saying that Vienna has many fans in Asia. From Hong Kong, there are 4 startups at the Vienna App Festival, and it wasn't easy for them to come because of the hotel quarantine, etc. But that's thankfully, that's in the past now, and we hope that won't come anymore. If anyone from the audience wants to ask any questions, I highly encourage you to use our Slido. There was a QR code that you could scan at the beginning, and we're happy to take your questions in the end into our discussion. So yeah, thank you. Markus, was there anything else that you wanted to elaborate on?
I mean, I think, let's say, in terms of information that you can get, maybe I could go a bit more into detail. So one important aspect is obviously like establishing also a legal entity within Austria, and kind of understanding that landscape and talking with the right people at the beginning to also like save some costs, not do anything twice. So we were provided with very helpful information on that part, which helped us. I think we also did our own mistakes, but that was unrelated to the ABA. But just to get kind of a good understanding of the legal landscape and how it actually works to establish a legal entity in Austria, I think this information they provide very well. And yeah, as I mentioned before, the networking aspect, kind of getting information relevant to media, to VCs, even to partners. I think that can be very easily done and very responsive. So I can wholeheartedly recommend a reach out to ABA.
Mm-hmm. And how many team members do you already have in Vienna at your research hub?
So we are currently 10 people, and actually we're going through a bit of a transition. So we actually started as a pure research center, but now we are developing our very first own product. And it's namely a AR creation platform that is purely web-based. So there's no need of any application. You can create your AR content purely on your web browser, and also use that and easily distribute it. So you can just send it via email, send it or also via link to anybody who would like to see that AR content. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think there's also many challenges connected to that, launching our own product. And yeah, I'm very excited also to maybe later go into more details on how that might work and what we're attempting to do.
Mm-hmm. And how do you benefit from having your research hub, so your European hub, based in Vienna, other than from the expertise and the basically computer vision experts, if you've mentioned, and the high living standards? Other than that, how do you benefit with your perhaps expansion plans from having your research hub based in Vienna?
I mean, yeah, in terms of, I think infrastructure is a big aspect. I mean, for instance, we are actually moving now from the first district to a much larger office in the Austrian campus, which is like at a reasonable cost, right? And where we can really expand. In terms of like market access, I think I kind of briefly mentioned it before. The Austrian market is not the largest market, right? But it's kind of the opportunity it gives you. There's the reach that it has to the east, right? But for us, kind of relevant as well, kind of the connection to Germany. Because within Germany, there's a lot of industrial players that we would like to collaborate with and contact with our solutions. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe these two aspects play a big role.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting. We know that Wirenect is working with some local Austrian partners and the Technical University of Graz, etc. Sigrid, how does it look with Code Cool? Are there any projects that you're actually involved in with the Austrian government, perhaps? Because you've mentioned that in Hungary you're involved with some government projects. And are there any collaborations with other startups, perhaps?
Yes, at the moment we have a cooperation with Talent Garden because we are here, and this is something that I would really recommend to everyone, just to connect, start in a shared office. This really helps also to get a lot of business connections. Apart from that, of course, we are using the subsidy landscape here in Austria, especially for our students. This is also something that really differentiates the Austrian market from other markets. Students might not be that used to paying for their own education, and they are not so eager to change their life as they might be in other cities because they just have their high living standard. And so here in Vienna, we have a lot of useful subsidies, a lot of useful foundations. We are working together with the AMS. Of course, we are working on our ÖCERT certification, and we already have the EFQM certificate, because that really helps us also to get the students and to help the students start their careers with us.
Mm-hmm. And we've really extensively talked about the portfolio that the Austrian Business Agency offers to companies that want to establish their businesses in Austria/in Vienna. I would like to know, what was the support program that you benefited from the most when you were settling in Vienna?
Yes, since we have a board of investors, it was not about financial support so much. It was mainly about getting a lot of information, which was really needed. I mean, we had a Hungarian expansion team at the beginning, 3 people who were not used to all those regulations that we have here in Austria. There are a lot of legal trade regulations. There are interest groups, there are social partnerships, and to get an overview over all those different contacts, addresses, all those consultancy, the ABA and also the VBA really helped us a lot. And this was really also something that we weren't experiencing in any other city. They were proactively contacting us and helping us out if we had problems. And thanks again. That really gave us a lot of trust that we can make it here.
Mm-hmm. And Birgit, we keep talking about Vienna as a business hub, of course, because that's the main topic of our panel discussion today. But what really interests me is, are there any other secret hubs in Austria that we don't know about?
Of course, Austria is more than Vienna. There is lots going on in all the other university cities, I would say. Take Graz. There is a technical university there, there is a medical university there, there is a regular university there. It's the second largest city, and for sure there is also a thriving ecosystem startup community there. Same holds true for example, Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. If we go further west, Innsbruck, Salzburg, even Vorarlberg, I think by now you have startup networks being established there and functioning. And certainly I think each of the cities perhaps stands for a slightly different ecosystem. Linz, for example, is very good with regards to e-health, app development. One of the perhaps biggest upcoming stars, Dynatrace, used to be the headquarter in Linz before they actually became a NASDAQ-noted company. So I think lots going on also outside of Vienna, and certainly also Lower Austria, the region surrounding Vienna, is also highly interesting. There is the availability of land, so companies that need further more space certainly then locate nearby Vienna. I would actually encourage everyone who is here today to use the Connect Day in the best meaning of the word, that is connect. You see here everywhere the booths of the various players and stakeholders of the ecosystem, ranging from funding agencies to actually the regional economic development agencies, Vienna Business Agency, EcoPlus, which is the agency for Lower Austria, is here also present. So please connect, collect business cards, exchange business cards, and actually in German we have a saying, by talking people get together and connect, and this is, I guess, what the essential meaning of today is.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and we are getting quite a few questions already through our Slido tool that you all can use. We'll basically answer these questions at the end of our talk, but I've got one more question for you, Birgit, and that is that basically we know that you at ABBA offer quite a big portfolio. We've mentioned it enough, I think, during this discussion, but what further steps do you aim to do? What other changes and perhaps support programs do you aim to add to your portfolio to just basically make Vienna and Austria as a business hub even stronger?
ABA actually has gotten a widened mandate by now. We have added a division called Work in Austria, where we actively support startup founders as well as employed key persons to help them locate in Austria. For international startup founders, there is support with regards to getting through the residence and work permit topic, as well as when Austrian companies want to recruit specialists from third countries. Again, there is the hands-on support to help them get the required specialists in. I think for the future, certainly, I see even more need to perhaps also on the legislative side to make here Austria perhaps even more competitive on that front. But certainly, I think also on the startup side, the startup community has already also formulated certain reform needs, so to help support those certainly is also needed. And last but not least, I guess, to collaborate with all the players here present to make the tech location Austria even better known internationally. Here we closely collaborate also with Advantage Austria, which is the Austrian export promotion side and has 100 offices abroad, to get the word out that Austria and Vienna is a cool place.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. We look forward to those additions to your portfolio. Markus, while talking about the future plans and the future support programs that will be offered to other companies coming from abroad, I would like to know which advice you would give to international companies coming, even planning to come to Vienna. What would you give them, the advice that you wish that you guys at Virnex would have had?
That's a great question. I would basically two aspects. Number one is kind of either work with a local hire who kind of has already an idea about how things work in Austria, in Vienna, to get, for instance, all the legal aspects covered, but also reach out, obviously, to agencies like the ABA to get kind of the fundamental information on that. And the second aspect is also really be clear on the recruitment side, right? Is the main target just the attractive market, or is the main target also employing people and growing the team within Austria? and kind of really understanding that there's two different pairs of shoes, and really looking if the people you need for your team are also available, or if you can realistically attract them to come here. So I think these points were also for us kind of important to get things off the ground and rolling.
Amazing. And Sigrid, before we head over to the questions that we received from our audience, I would like to know what the future steps for Code Cool are now in Vienna. So what's the next step for you guys?
Yes, at the moment we have 70 students at our campus who are doing this full stack daytime program. But we found out that we have an international run, especially if we have an online course. And so we will offer an online course from June onwards. So this will be one of our next steps. And of course, some kind of job accompanying offer. There will be an evening and weekend course for students who are interested in studying besides working. And some shorter course projects, just like front-end courses, to really meet the needs of our target groups, the students, as well as the companies.
Amazing. So now we're heading over to the questions that we received from the audience. As I've said plenty of times before, there is still time for you to ask any questions that you may still have, and we will pick them up here on stage. So the first question is, what stage of startup is more suitable to consider setting up in Austria to open up the European market? We are a startup from the beginning of this year. So basically the question is, at which stage in the process is it more suitable to consider coming to Austria and establish their businesses here in Austria / in the European market?
It's hard to answer in general. I would say it totally depends, because we have had success stories where 3 international students, originally from Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Russia, came to Vienna to study, and then they skipped the studies and started developing the business idea, and by now they are quite a scale-up, considered a scale-up, and have actually achieved Horizon 2020 funding. So that's a Viennese success story, I would say, that was even endemic here. If you are a fresh startup, to relocate completely is difficult because you don't have an established network of contacts. I would rather think that to internationalize for a startup requires that you have gotten already a little bit of a runway, that you have gotten already a little bit of funding and investment, because even if you come to Vienna and even if you manage to get funding here, it takes time. And you don't want to run out of capital even before you have started. So I would say when coming here, you need to make sure that you have at least a little bit of runway.
So don't just jump into it when you haven't even walked a few steps during.
Then it's a complete relocation, but then I would say it's rather the story of you come here to study and then you skip the studies and develop your business idea further.
Yeah, I think our best practice examples with Code Cool and Virnect are a great example for that, how you should be somehow even a little bit or quite established and comfortable where you are, where you founded, and then come to Austria to expand your business. That was a question from Raimond Lau, and now we head over to a question from Ersoy Soyer. What are the most challenging areas for startups and talents coming from abroad to Austria? So what are the biggest challenges, the most challenging areas for startups and talents when basically relocating or locating to Austria? Yeah?
I can say something about the talents, and it's a pity that here in Austria, I know it's a requirement, but a good knowledge of the German language is definitely something that is required here if you want to work here, and this is also something that most of the companies really need and say that their candidates need to know.
Mm-hmm. And is there any support that you can take to basically help your employees and your founders to learn that language, so to get to the language skills that are required to be successful in Vienna?
Yes, of course, there are a lot of possibilities to learn German here, yes. And we also started to offer this to our students as a second program because it's really needed, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was actually a question that we just were sent by Franz Rösler as well, if it was possible to basically establish your business here without knowing the German language, but we would advise that you have a brief understanding and somehow a little bit.
I think it can be done, definitely. But of course, the official government language is German. So you cannot expect the authorities to only speak English with you. You will receive official letters from authorities in German. So certainly it's of help if you have an employee that speaks German. I think especially here in Vienna, English is widely spoken. There are many international companies where English is even the corporate language. But of course, if you go outside of Vienna, then it is expected from many Austrian companies that the employees also speak some German. But I think that's changing a little bit these days, and certainly in Vienna you can get by. There's a large expat community. You can stay in the English-speaking bubble
Yeah.
if you wish, but of course all the government language is German.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You can do as much networking as you want in English. You will get really far. However, the basically bureaucratic ways that works in Austria is in German, and you will need someone to understand that.
And coming back to the question, yes, I think one topic is certainly the whole residence and work permit topic for the third country citizens. It is somewhat complicated, but I guess it's everywhere in the European Union. And so I think seek assistance offered by ABA Vienna Business Agency. We are trying to smoothen that process. Yeah.
Okay. I think that question was especially focused on the Asian market or Asian companies that want to come to Austria. Markus, maybe it would be really valuable for you to share your opinion around that.
Yeah, sure. So from the language aspect, I think, as I mentioned, as advice as well, like hire a local person or at least work very closely definitely helps, because we have English as our main language within the company. And basically the managing director and most of the employees, they actually don't really speak any German or very little German. For us, it's kind of maybe a bit of a differentiation here. Everything that is kind of not client-facing can easily be done in English-speaking. But everything where there's really business development going on, where you want to meet Austrian companies, etc., I would also say it's definitely a recommendation to have some understanding of German to just facilitate, especially this like first contact. Maybe people might be a bit more hesitant if they see an English email because they might be frustrated that they have to now answer in English. So I think having some sort of local connection with a well-speaking German person definitely helps. Having said that, we could also be understood as an example that basically with no German, you can establish yourself within Austria.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think having some support, help from someone who understands the local language is helpful. You can do it as proven by Vienna. However, as you advised, Birgit, it is really, really, yeah, something that they should consider having and maybe put a little bit of time into learning the language to basically feel more comfortable also establishing the whole business and going through the procedure. Well, on that note, I would like to thank all of you for taking your time and for being a part of this panel discussion today. It was really, really interesting, and I'm sure that our audience has had some questions that they got answered today, and we hope that we showed other international companies the way of how it's done and how basically which support they can receive in Austria. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for listening as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.